Hi, I'm Ursula Lunardakini, and I'll be going over astrology for February um, 2026. And the major story is Saturn and Neptune um, meeting. Saturn will enter Aries after 2.5 years in Pisces. So Saturn will enter Aries on Valentine's Day. Um, and then meet with Neptune on February 20th at 0 point in Aries. So this is definitely a pretty rare occasion, especially the 0 degrees is quite remarkable. It's almost like uh, it's the beginning of the zodiac, and it's almost like we get to start anew. But that, on the other hand, means that old things are we're at the moment we're probably uh, ending a lot of dreams and starting new ones. So I'll be going over each sign, and I definitely suggest um, watching and listening to your rising sign, um, but also your sun sign. So in combination, you should have a pretty good idea about this particular transit. So Saturn and Neptune um, met about 36 years ago. And so they're about to start a new 36-year dream. So definitely a big deal. At the same time, we also have um, an eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th. And uh, that hasn't happened in 19 years either. So it's a big month. There's a lot going on. Again, at this time, we'll be mostly looking at Saturn and Neptune. And this fatigue that many are experiencing is definitely, um, you know, reflected in Saturn and Neptune completing their journey in this watery sign of Pisces. And so we're going from this water element to air element, and fire element in this case. So it is from water to fire, and then we have Pluto in Aquarius. So there's a lot of we're basically going to we're leaving these earth and water elements behind and moving into air and mostly air, but also fire elements. So a lot of creativity, a lot of things happening. Okay, so and I just want to mention that I am offering a special mini readings, 20 minutes for €40, and you can go to my website, lunardakini.com, and to book an interactive Zoom reading. It's a unique mix of astrology and tarot. Okay, so we'll begin with Aries. So, the way I'm doing it this month is Aries. I'm looking at what we can let go. You know, we have this 36-year old dream that, and um, the past 2.5 years when Saturn has been in Pisces, you know, what can we let go? And then what's the new dream? So for Aries, Saturn and Saturn and Neptune are I'm meeting in your first house, and it's very interesting that the new dream tarot is offering is the Chariot card, which is the sign of Cancer. So it is, you know, and the first house is about your body, your image, your identity. So the dream is something to do with it's a lot to do with just a brand new self, um, and perhaps some growing pains related to it, um, because Saturn is not crazy about being in Aries. On the other hand, it will bring um, you know, the element of discipline, taking care of your body, um, and um, and then in terms of Neptune, you know, it's interesting that we have this the letting go element here is surrender your fear of intimacy. So, you know, you are being asked to begin to release patterns that stop you from opening your heart. So it's very interesting, very body and identity oriented um, uh, transit for Aries, and you know, very significant because everything is at 0 degrees. Um, it's a brand new beginning. Again, maybe not exactly smooth, but your Aries, you don't really care for smooth. You know, it's okay. You're not well, you're probably not crazy about change, but you certainly will take change rather than um, sit around and get bored. I mean, that's when Aries gets uh, depressed. So definitely, this is better, and something truly amazing is emerging here. You know, I really love the Chariot card here as as the symbol of a new dream. It's it's really great, and it's kind of it's you know it's also about creating boundaries. Um, you know, the Chariot is about this harness and creating um, setting boundaries, and perhaps that's another way of finding and dealing with your fear of intimacy. You know, proper boundaries is how you can conquer those fears of intimacy. I think that's the message here. Okay, then we're going to go to Taurus. So Taurus, um, your your card, um, your letting go card is surrender to your intuition. So this is about your inner voice, Um, it's very interesting that Saturn and Neptune are now entering and meeting in your 12th house, which is the house of hidden things, um, self-undoing, things that are difficult for us to see. So you're going to need your intuition. You are absolutely um, you're going to have to navigate sometimes in the dark. Um, so because what we can't see what we can't see. So, th- if you have been, Taurus is generally speaking very, an earth sign and trusting, um, uh, even, even materialistic or certainly enjoying sensual things and so forth. But this is not about that. This is definitely about, um, you know, things that are brewing behind the scenes, things that you cannot necessarily touch. But this is also about your inner creativity, um, and subconscious creativity. And trusting it fully, which is probably a little bit difficult at first. But the more you surrender to your intuition, and it sounds like it's simple, it is not, but you have um, at least 2.5 years to learn to trust it, because that's how long Saturn is going to be in Aries. Um, and as a result, the new dream here is the um, um, the Six of Cups. And, again, this is about setting boundaries. Um, it's about boundaries, about what you definitely don't want. And that's how you find what you do want. And there's such simplicity in this card, um, that um, such beauty and simplicity. And you definitely like that. So I think this is you're gonna be entering in almost this like subconscious cleaning up uh phase where uh a new dream is being developed uh deep in the hidden parts of your psyche, and if you just relax into it, your life is gonna turn eventually turn a lot simpler. So it's a great card. And I think it looks good. So Gemini, so Saturn and Neptune are gonna will be meeting in your 11th house, which is the house of um, friends and allies, networks, benefactors. Now, there's possibly been a lot of drama because you have hosted Saturn and Neptune in your 10th house of your career and your public role. Neptune has been there for 14 years, and Saturn has been there 2.5 years. So there's probably, and the 10th house is always a very intense uh, place. Um, So that you're probably leaving behind a lot of drama, and this is definitely a very, it's probably a big relief to let be able to let go of all that drama. And um, the new dream here looks very auspicious. It's like you're heading towards the right direction. The, the Six of Swords and the fruits of your labor, everything that you have been um, worked towards and put up with, perhaps even, and what has been so confusing um, and all over the place is going to become clear, but it will require for you setting up boundaries. And it's difficult to set up boundaries when you don't really know what you want, but that is going to become clear by knowing what you at least becoming very clear to yourself. What don't you definitely don't want? And that's how, when you find out what you do want. And looks like it's going to become um, a lot more clear and looks like you're going to the right direction. You're finally getting out of the drama and heading and starting a new dream, maybe um, new groups, new um, friendships, um, all kinds of new people entering your life. And and some of them are probably going to be quite significant and are going to last a long time. On the other hand, you'll probably get um, you can let go of the kinds of friendships that no longer serve you. So again, this is about establishing boundaries. Okay, Cancer. So you're getting Saturn and Neptune are entering your 10th house, which is the house of your career and public role. And there's definitely a bit of there are growing pains here. Um, and you are being asked to let go of, mm, kind of complaining about it. Um, because instead of fighting of these changes that are coming to your career and your public role, um, for example, people that are retired, this is the 10th house is still your, um, how people see you. If you move, everybody can see that you moved, for example. So your public facing role. And you are being asked to kind of accept the situation and be compassionate towards yourself and to others. And you will eventually see that there's a Page of Swords definitely has this newness to it. And so heading to a big um, big changes in your career, and probably they have some mm, consequences to your home life as well. But this is the beginning of a new dream, and it is definitely something where you can organize your life. You can kind of there's a feeling that this is a great time to organize your life, start over. This is the beginning of a new 36-year dream. So what you do now this month will have, long-term consequences um, in a good way, especially um, if you are patient and establish proper boundaries for yourself and um, and those you are working with. If you establish those boundaries in a way that if you don't know exactly what you want, then at least establish boundaries to things that you're not ready to do. That's that's already half the work, and that clears the road. Um, what remains is where the road is clear. And and Cancer is not always um, the best at setting up boundaries. But the thing is, if you don't establish those boundaries now, they will be somebody else will set them for you. So it is better to be fully aware of what you will take and what you will not, and be very clear about that uh, to yourself and to others. And that is really, this is what is really cleaning up. This is cleaning up your career house. So Leo, so Saturn and Neptune are entering your eighth house. I'm sorry, ninth house. So this is actually very interesting. This is quite favorable because the ninth house um, forms harmonic aspect to your rising sign, if you're a Leo rising sign. And you have been worrying a lot. Some of this worry is about, Pluto is opposite your sign uh, in Aquarius. So that has probably created a lot of worry for the past year or so. But you are getting used to this feeling. And definitely, I feel that Saturn and Neptune here in the ninth house, which is the house of your life philosophy, it's also about education, about travel, anything that expands your mind. And I think here it's a very auspicious place where you are being presented this opportunity to start anew and start thinking about your life in very different ways. Um, but you are getting the new dream here. You are getting the Eight of Coins here. And so it is going to require discipline and skill. It's not completely easy and smooth. Um, that's not the nature of Saturn and Neptune in Aries. It's not, nothing about it is easy and smooth, but it's not for anybody. However, you are in a better position than most because it will be constructive and it will be beneficial for you because of this um, uh, because it's creating a harmonious aspect to your first house, to your house of identity. So the new dream here is require it's a new way of thinking, which and it's gonna end up this is a time to really um, hone your skills and to really find to really um, you know get into the um, details and really perhaps you can learn more, but it's more like I feel like you've done the work. You've mostly done the work. And this is more like now how can you implement it? What is the dream here? And it's not quite exactly how you thought it would go, but it's going to be something even better. There's something very skillful here, um, something very exciting, and some kind of newness to it. And Aries is a fire sign like you are. So there is this basic understanding of of um, creativity and how to harness that creativity. Okay, so it's looking good. So Virgo. So Virgo. So the big news here is so the big news here is finally Saturn and Neptune are leaving your seventh house of relationships. And quite the it's been quite the nightmare for Virgo risings. Um, in a sense that Saturn has not been easy there. Um, and Neptune there in the house of relationships. Well, it started out as a wonderful dream 14 years ago, and by now you are quite done with that dream. And so, um, 2.5 years ago, Saturn entered your house of the relationships, and this reality started to slowly, you started to gain this understanding about what has been happening for the past 14 years. And now you're kind of fully grasping at where you're at. But still, um, we humans, we don't like change. So there's still, this fear of change because at this point you're quite used to having that Neptune in the seventh house as well as Saturn. I mean, I think you're definitely ready to let them go, but still it's kind of more like, now what? So I think main thing here is the new dream card is uh, Four of Wands. And it's a wonderful card. I think it's a card of relief, but temporary relief, simply because it's not so much like what's going to be ahead. It's more like being so used to being anxious about Saturn and Neptune in your seventh house that um, you're going to have to just uh, get used to being not having this oppressive feeling of Saturn being opposite your sign. So you can let go and surrender your fear of change, um, particularly about relationships. You're ready for it. And um, if your relationships, um, oh, this can mean any kind of relationship, by the way. So if your relationships survived the past 2, 3 years, or even 14, then they are stronger than ever. So that's the good news. If they didn't, you're ready to move on. And and uh, the new dream here looks good. So Libra, Saturn and Neptune are entering your seventh house of relationships. And so the seventh house, Saturn in the seventh house traditionally is definitely, it is a challenge for especially intimate relationships. It can also be your customers and clients, especially if you see clients one-on-one. And Neptune is there to confuse things. But it is the beginning of a new dream as well, simultaneously. And um, this looks wonderful. You have the Empress card here as the symbol of a new dream. So that's as good as it gets for Libra. And so it's definitely it's very interesting. Saturn in this house can definitely mean even meeting um, uh, a new person, or if you're single, it's definitely possible to meet um, you enter into a new relationship, um, and or ending a relationship. Both things are possible. Um, an old relationship may enter a whole new phase. Something about it is fundamentally changing. According to this card, the Empress, it's looking good. It's interesting that the surrender card here, so letting go card is surrender to non-action. So simply breathe and focus on your own power. Let others come to you. So I think that's very interesting and um, very good advice in this case, because Neptune can definitely um, confuse us to, we're not going to see definitely who people really are. Whoever enters into your life right now, you may not quite see them clearly. If it's a new relationship, you definitely want to be a little bit, let time, let Saturn, who's also in your seventh house, let time, um, let time be on your side. So let this new person reveal themselves to you um, in time. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to, definitely not the time to commit. It's more like just let them show themselves to you. And in time, you'll understand who they really are. And it can be a wonderful new dream. Um, it doesn't mean that there is anything deceitful here, but it can be that. So on the other hand, you know, if only Saturn is here, then we do need to dream. We do need to dream. Neptune is about dreaming. Saturn is about reality. So in order to create dreams and make them real, we need them both. So I think it's very exciting. And also typically Saturn in this house, there might be some age difference. You may meet a younger person, or you may meet an older person. Typically, there can be some sort of age difference here. Um, but again, uh, not the time to make any commitments or jump into anything. Just let people um, reveal themselves to you in time. So Scorpio, so Saturn and Neptune are entering your sixth house of um, daily work, daily routine. This can be chronic um, health issues sometimes. Um, it and daily routine. It definitely, this to me is definitely talks a little bit more about work and your daily routine, particularly because the new dream here that you're starting, um, the Four of Coins is here. So a very profitable, looks like a very profitable new dream starts here. Um, and probably you've had a rough year, so it's been difficult uh, to rely on your intuition like you're used to. So um, the letting go card here is surrender to your soul's path, and I think that this is just reminding you to embrace this all these lessons that you've learned because Pluto has entered your fourth house of home and environment. But Pluto has probably revealed its cards already, so you can just relax and start a new routine. Um, it's probably related to your home. Oh, but this is Saturn and Neptune are making sextile to your home um, house here. So it is beneficial. I think it's going to help you. And work-wise, especially, it looks good. Um, so sometimes it can reveal Neptune and Saturn here. The only thing that I will mention about health um, is that if you are feeling something, trust your intuition very strongly here because Neptune in this house can be difficult. Things can be difficult to diagnose. So if you're feeling like something is a little off, and one doctor says one thing and says nothing's wrong, just get a second opinion, because Neptune here can confuse things. So, but again, this doesn't necessarily, um, not everybody's gonna uh, feel this as it's not gonna manifest in terms of health for everyone. And looks like this is definitely talking about work and settling into a new routine in terms of your home environment as well as work. And I think it's going to support your daily routines, um, a whole new routine, daily routine is going to start here. And it's a little bit uncomfortable at first, but let's put it this way. Um, it's definitely better. Um, it will clarify things. because it's been so muddy and confusing for the past half a year and even a year. So um, um, it's it's definitely gonna, again, establishing boundaries is very important here. What are you willing to do at work or in your home environment? What are you willing to put up with or not put up with? If you establish those very firm boundaries now, then you're on your way. And if you don't establish proper boundaries now, they will be, somebody else will set them for you. So this is the time to do that. Okay, so Sagittarius. So Saturn and Neptune are in your fifth house. Fifth house is about things that bring us joy. So romance, it's a house of romance. It can also be about your children, uh, maybe uh, somebody in the family is having you're having children, or somebody in your family is having children. That's one possibility here, but it's also a possibility of a brand new romance. And it's interesting that the letting go card is his surrender stubbornness. So that's very interesting. Um, I think you have I think this is about because Uranus is about to enter in April, the end of April. Uranus is about to enter your seventh house of relationships. So I think it has to do with a lot to do about relationships. I think you have a very rigid idea, possibly if you've had a rigid idea who um you want to, what kind of relationship you want. And um, Saturn and Neptune are here kind of, and certainly Uranus in at the end of April are going to say you're going to have to open up your mind about the kind of relationship um, that you will enter. And I mean, it should be a lot of fun. I think that if you surrender your stubbornness about what kind of people you want to be with, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Um, and um, it's going to be very surprising, the kind of people that you will be meeting. So that's why, um, whenever humans are just naturally, we don't like change, but change is coming and it is here. And you will pretty much, all these relationships, possibly multiple relationships, they're gonna rock your world. The kind of people that you're gonna be meeting with, and I think it's gonna be, again, I think if you open up your mind and surrender your stubbornness, you're gonna have a lot of fun. And um, this new dream card, Nine of Wands here, is very um again, it's not going to be exactly comfortable, but it's it should it could be so much fun if you just um if for everybody else, I'm kind of telling all the other signs to set up good boundaries. Certainly for you as well. I mean, this is the time to set boundaries in terms of what you want and what you don't want. But there's a, I think that you've set your boundaries a little bit. There's a limit to setting up boundaries too. So there's a certain stuff there. I think the cards are definitely talking about you setting up boundaries in a more limited way so that you don't want to you, you, you don't want to be so rigid that that you deny yourself new opportunities. And I think you're gonna have to relax those boundaries in that sense. Obviously, you don't want to, you want to be clear, um, the kind of relationship that you want or don't want. But something about here is that if you're too rigid, you're gonna miss out a lot. Okay, so um, that's the advice for you, and I think you're gonna have a lot of fun when Uranus enters your house, seventh house of relationships, at the end of April. And then Capricorn. So Saturn and Neptune are entering your fourth house of um, home and home environment, um, and your roots, um, ancestry. So that's interesting that you're getting surrender your addictions card here. That's very interesting. So addictions can obviously mean a lot more than just substances. We can be addicted to um, food, overworking. Overworking certainly would be something that Capricorn um, uh, would but probably ends up doing a lot. So, you're in many ways you're being asked to take care of yourself better. Something about here you feel perhaps a little bit worn out, um, 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 probably, mentally speaking, because Saturn and Neptune has been in your third house for the past 14 years, and Saturn has been there for 2.5 years. So there's some sort of mental exhaustion at this point that has probably created this feeling of wanting to rely on or developing these um, addictions to, you know, phone, overworking, food, people, so forth. And um, now that Neptune and Saturn are entering your fourth house of home, I feel like that's not going to work anymore. You're going to have to, this is an opportunity to start anew, to create the kind of environment that you really want, that really supports you. And you're going to need to, um, create all new. This is an opportunity just to, you know, I mean, first thing I would probably do is to organize your home environment completely. Um, this is this can also be about moving to a new home. That's totally a possibility and a good chance of finding uh, a whole new, place to live, Because this starts a 36-year a new dream. So, you know, there's a big possibility that you find a new home that is your, long-term home. And it may not be quite easy at first, but um, it's going to pay off, especially um, you're getting Three of Wands here. So that's, it feels like you could use, cooperating with other people, getting advice from other people. Definitely, you know, um, it's not easy for you to ask for help. So this is probably a good time to ask for help and cooperate with other people. And that way you can find the kind of supportive home environment that you need. It looks like there's some special circumstances about something about your home that is um, that is important to you. So it's very important that you establish those boundaries in terms of what is it that you need and what is it that you're definitely not going to be able to put up with in your home environment. So um, that's the advice for you, Capricorn. Okay, Aquarius. So you're getting wow, these cards are so interesting because you're getting Saturn and Neptune are entering your third house, which is your mind, your way of expressing yourself, your also your local environment. Um, so I'm definitely getting the feeling that this is about, um, there's a harmonious aspect to your first house from the third house. So Saturn, which is your ruler, can finally support you from here. It hasn't been, I mean, it's not, Saturn is not loving being in Aries, but there's an understanding. You and Aries understand each other certainly a lot better than Pisces. So, so you do have an understanding of how to relate to um, Aries, and there's definitely a new way of thinking here, a new way of communicating, and um, even though it's not going to be exactly smooth and easy in Aries, it is a whole new phase for you, and a whole new way of thinking. And I love that the letting go card here is surrender to the magic of who you are. So remember those that you are a magical being with your kind of uniqueness and worth. And I think that's just such um, great advice for you. And I mean that the new dream here, the card here is the world, which is Saturn card. That's amazing. So there's I feel like, okay, things were not that, it's not like, again, Aries is not that easy for Saturn and Pisces here, but it is a whole lot better in Aries. It's a whole lot better than in Pisces, which was very confusing um, for you to have your ruling planet in Pisces. That was not easy. So this is this this is clarifying, even if it's not easy. It's clarifying. It's you kind of now you know exactly. Um, well, certainly by establishing your boundaries, you're going to know exactly where to go. This is, um, and you can start feeling, you can start being intuitive um, your about yourself, about your road ahead. I think this is going to be uh, a lot more. It's not as muddy as the road is not muddy. It's it's fiery and creative and a bit anxious in Aries, and certainly you don't want to be rushed, but and Aries wants to rush, but so that's the friction here. But on the other hand, if you establish your boundaries now and don't, um, otherwise other people will set your boundaries for you, and you don't want that. So if you just establish your own boundaries now, then the road ahead is, um, you're doing great groundwork here for the next 36 years. Okay, Pisces. So Saturn and Neptune are entering your second house, which is your house of self-earned money and house of self-worth. And I love that you're getting this surrender to creativity um, card in the as the letting go card. So in other words, um, I think that you know, I think that it's more of I think this is a lot more about Saturn and Neptune actually leaving your house. Now you can surrender to your creativity. Okay, so Saturn has been there 2.5 years in your house in Pisces, in your house of identity, um, and um, now that Saturn is finally leaving your first house, and Neptune is finally leaving after 14 years, now you can surrender to your creativity. And you're gonna have to you're gonna have to be clever also, because Saturn in the house of in your second house of money, you're gonna have to become creative about money also. Um, but I feel like you have been somehow aware of this. There's awareness, like you knew this was coming anyway, and you're naturally intuitive about this. So you have been thinking about this quite a lot, and I think that you are ready. And it's been so long. It's been so long that you haven't had a major planet in your house, major outer planet in your house, in your sign. That I think that's you can really unleash your creativity now, and it's going to naturally then, money is going to flow if you just, uh, your obstacles, the obstacles of uh, expressing your being yourself are finally removed after so many years. So I think that's what that uh, this card is about. And the new dream there is The Queen of Wands, I mean, yeah, she she looks content, you know. I feel like you're gonna finally feel like this is also about very much about um, creativity to some extent and about remembering who you are. And um, and I think that in terms of your second house, your self-worth and money, it's important to establish boundaries in terms of what you're willing to put up with and what you're not willing to put up with. Um, and ask, um, uh, be willing to ask for what you're worth. Um, so it's important to establish those boundaries and make them very clear um, to yourself, because this is establishing a new dream, a new way of thinking in this house of self-worth and money for the next 36 years. So, you know, um, I think that um, if you let your creativity um, just surrender your true creativity, it should be relatively easy, although you're going to need to be clever. But I think that, uh, I think that you're going to feel such relief that I don't think money and self-worth is going to be that much of a problem. But it is important to still um, establish those boundaries there so that they don't get out of hand. And because Neptune is there, there are things that you don't clearly see at the moment. So it is definitely important to ask, for example, any creative work, um, creative body of work. It's important to um, ask enough money. Um, and it's not about money, and it never is about money for you. But it is important to ask enough money in terms of your self-worth, and not just exchanging um, services. Money should always exchange hands. It's not about how much money, but it is about uh, exchange of energy, which is important. Okay, so yeah, again, a reminder that I'm offering year ahead mini readings, 20 minutes for $40. And you can go to my website, lunardakini.com, to book an interactive Zoom reading. It's a unique mix of astrology and tarot. And so this is where you can find it. And you I'll accept PayPal. And you can also go to my website and order my free astrology blog newsletter. And like, subscribe, and comment. And thank you so much.